Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse, and we're already through the middle of August, which is pretty crazy. So today I thought I would show you not only some bird activity that people are seeing in the upstate New York area and share a whole bunch of your photos today, but also talk about a lot of the butterflies that are around because there are quite a few that people are seeing just in their gardens. So really fun time of the year. As always, if you're on, you can say hi in the comments or let us know what kind of things you are seeing. And if you have any questions, you can throw those in there as well. We'll be giving you an update about the hummingbirds and the orioles as well, and baby birds and all that good kind of stuff. So we'll get started. And first of all, I'll start with something that has nothing to do with birds or butterflies or anything like that, but northern lights. So people in our neck of the woods in the upstate New York area have been having some pretty good luck with seeing northern lights over the past week, especially if you're close up by the lake shore. But this was a picture that I took just with my cell phone on Saturday night, which wasn't even the peak, just of the dark sky, and the camera from the phone kind of absorbs in a lot of light, and you can see the northern lights better that way. You could see a little bit of light over the horizon coming and going. And then when I took this photo, you could see some of the color there from the northern lights. And this was all the way down in Allegheny County, in northern Allegheny County, which is about an hour south from Rochester. So even there, could see a little bit of northern lights activity. And like I said, this was Saturday night. There were some people on Sunday night that had fabulous photos, especially around the lakeshore, of the northern lights. So I've got some family that is very interested in the northern lights, and I've learned that there's a really great app to track the odds of seeing northern lights in your area for a certain day, and it's called Aurora, Aurora. It's a free app, and it will show where the lights are going to possibly be seen in which areas, and it'll show you cloud cover. So it's a pretty neat app. On Saturday, it got very cloudy, so we were only able to see this for a little bit of time. Didn't really get to see the Perseid meteor shower, unfortunately, either, because it got so cloudy. But we got to see a little bit of northern lights activity. And these are just a couple other photos that I took. So you can see there's a little bit of light there. This one I didn't enhance at all. So you can see that there's a little bit of light there, but it's not as bright as when I enhanced this photo here taken with my cell phone camera. But there's definitely some northern lights activity going on, and Sunday was a big peak for us. Another thing that is not a bird or a butterfly, but I happened upon this weekend, which was very exciting for me. This is what's called a red eft, and this is a type of newt. It's a stage of development of the red-spotted newt. And the red-spotted newts, they will lay their eggs in the water. They have aquatic larvae, and that larva will sometimes turn right into a red-spotted newt, into an adult, or sometimes in some of their range, not even in their entire range, but just in some of their range, they will have this stage after becoming an aquatic larva that has external gills and all that kind of stuff. They will then go on the land for 2 or 3 years in this red eft stage. So it's really interesting because it's not throughout all of their range, it's just in some parts. They'll go through this stage, and then they'll ultimately go back to the water and develop into a red-spotted newt and continue their life. So this was really exciting because I had not seen one of these in a long time, and I hadn't seen one ever while camping, and that's where I was when I saw this. So pretty exciting for me to see this little red eft running around right on my mat right here. It's just sitting on a little outdoor mat. So that was pretty fun. Another thing I noticed, there's a lot of these guys crawling around right now. These are called hickory tussock moths, and this is the hickory tussock moth caterpillar. and they're white, and they have these little tufts, these black tufts that stick out of their body. They can sting with those little hairs, so you want to be careful not to poke them or prod them or touch them too much, because you might get stung by those little hairs. But I've noticed a lot of those around. Seen quite a few over the past 2-3 weeks or so. Lots of hickory tussock moth caterpillars around. And this is what those will turn into. This is the hickory tussock moth, the adult. But right now, a lot of people have their eyes on milkweed because it is monarch butterfly time. And those monarch butterflies are laying eggs on milkweed plants, and those caterpillars are hatching out. Every female monarch butterfly can lay about 500 eggs, but only about 1 in 20 of those eggs will reach adulthood. So a lot of people will raise those caterpillars indoors, and that's always fun, and that's a good way to keep them safe from predators. If you want to know more about the monarch butterfly, we are giving a monarch butterfly class this Saturday in person at Whitehaven Park. You can visit our website for more information about that, which is thebirdhouseny.com. But that being said, keep your eyes on milkweed. The common milkweed is not in bloom anymore, but you can still absolutely see it with its big showy leaves. Swamp milkweed is blooming right now, and that is another good place to look for caterpillars, and also butterfly weed. This is what the adult monarch butterfly looks like, and then these are the caterpillars, and they go through different what are called instars, or stages of growth. As that caterpillar eats, it has to grow, and in order to grow, it has to shed its skin a few times. Every time it sheds its skin, it forms a new what's called larval instar, and they have 5 larval instars. They start off super, super tiny, and then as they eat, they shed their skin and they grow to their next instar. So now is the time to look for monarch butterfly caterpillars, and here is a fabulous photo sent in by Patty, who took a nice photo of this monarch butterfly caterpillar. That looks like a pretty big one. That's about ready to form its chrysalis if it hasn't already. And this is on swamp milkweed, and she says boat launch at Men and Ponds Park. So that sounds about right, because that swamp milkweed tends to like more wet environments. So you can grow it in your backyard, no problem. But finding it out in the wild, you're a lot of the time going to find it by some kind of wetland. So really great photo there sent in by Patty of a monarch butterfly caterpillar. And if you're going looking for caterpillars, they definitely leave signs. They eat a lot, and they also poop a lot. And so if you're out in the field and you see a leaf like this that's covered in little black dots, that's probably the droppings of the caterpillar called frass. It might be the monarch butterfly, or it could be the milkweed tussock moth caterpillars, and they will congregate all together. So the monarch butterfly caterpillars will be solitary. You tend not to see more than one of them on a plant at a time, but the milkweed tussock moth caterpillars, they all congregate. So their eggs are all laid together and they will stick together. And so you'll find that you find them in a group. So you're not going to find them individually most of the time. And this is what they look like when they're young. I found these a couple weeks ago. But then as they grow, they also get this really fun and funky coloration. So this is another tussock moth, just like that hickory tussock moth I showed you earlier. That's white with the little black hairs sticking out. This is another type of tussock moth. Very, very fuzzy looking. So you might find those too as you're looking at milkweed plants. And this is what the adult milkweed tussock moth looks like. And then also you might find other insects on those milkweed plants, like these long-horned milkweed beetles or red milkweed beetles. They are super common on milkweed. There is a plant that looks a lot like milkweed called dogbane that has smaller leaves, red stems, and it's not, the leaves aren't as big and thick as the common milkweed, but you can usually find them around the same spots. You can tell the difference because they do have those bright red stems, and those leaves are going to be smaller, and then they branch out, whereas milkweed has one stalk and then all of the leaves branch out from that. The dogbrain really branches out quite a bit, and that's another way you can tell a difference. Also, if you find dogbane, you'll probably find this shiny little beetle on it, which is really gorgeous, called the dogbane beetle. So that's another way you can identify dogbane from milkweed, which is important if you're raising those monarch butterfly caterpillars indoors. You want to make sure you are finding them the right plant that they need in order to eat and survive. Another butterfly I saw this weekend was the Viceroy butterfly, and this is a mimic of the monarch butterfly. It is smaller in size, and that's what alerted me right away that I'd probably have something besides a monarch butterfly hanging around. And I got closer to it, and sure enough, it was a Viceroy. Another way to identify a Viceroy as compared to a monarch butterfly is, although it's hard to see here because it is covered up a bit by the plants, they do have this stripe that goes through their hind wing, which the monarch butterflies do not have. Some other butterfly photos sent in by you guys. This was a photo sent in by Karen, who says, having fun watching the swallowtails on our beach on Canandaigua Lake. And this is a tiger swallowtail right here. And this is the puddling behavior. We've talked about that before, where butterflies, especially male butterflies, will do this behavior where they'll land on the ground and they siphon out minerals from the land. Usually it's kind of a wet habitat that they will do that with, a muddy habitat, something with rocks. So it looks like that's probably what they're doing if they are on the beach. And the one on the top here, so here's that tiger swallowtail again on the top. Now this one down below is a giant swallowtail, which is pretty cool to see. They are quite large. That's going to be the largest swallowtail that we have in the area. But here they are doing that puddling behavior. Very cool photo sent in by Karen. And another swallowtail, this picture was sent in by Patty, who works right here at the store. And this is a spicebush swallowtail that she came across this past weekend. So lots of gorgeous butterflies out there right now. And lots of caterpillars too. Here's a photo sent in by Kate of a Luna moth caterpillar. Really cool. So now getting to the birds, there are definitely still orioles around. People are just over the past week or two saying that the orioles have been starting to come back to their feeders and eating more jelly. If they hadn't seen them in a while, all of a sudden they're starting to see them again. I found that same thing about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. All of a sudden I had an oriole in my yard and I hadn't seen one in weeks. So it sounds like they're starting to eat more, getting ready for their migration back down south. So that usually happens around this time. And with the hummingbirds, they tend to leave around Labor Day, although you can still sometimes see some throughout the month of September. This is the time where they're really starting to eat more food and get ready for that migration. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden you're seeing some orioles flitting around the backyard again. So if you put that feeder away, you can always put out some more jelly and see if they'll stop to refuel on their migration. Same with hummingbirds. All of a sudden, we're starting to get more and more reports of hummingbirds. For the longest time, people were saying, where are my hummingbirds? I haven't seen any. But all of a sudden, it seems that they are coming to people's backyards in larger numbers. That could be because the babies have also fledged and left the nest and they're out into the world. That probably has something to do with it too. But again, they are getting ready to go down south for the winter. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden you see more hummingbird activity at your feeders. And especially if you've got plants, they'll probably be feeding more and more from your plants. And a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago, I did a little a tour of my garden, and I had this plant, which I showed off, called trumpet honeysuckle. And this isn't a picture from my yard, but as soon as the broadcast was over, I had a hummingbird come right to that trumpet honeysuckle. So unfortunately, it didn't make the show, but they absolutely love that, and they've been coming to that and feeding from it pretty often, which is really cool. Lots of Carolina wrens. I've had a family of Carolina wrens in my backyard, and they are all singing their hearts out. It's been really fun to listen to. And you guys have been reporting a good amount of Carolina wrens out there too. So they can have a couple of broods a year, and it sounds like those babies are out and in the world with a lot of you guys in your backyards, myself included. So be on the lookout for Carolina wrens. You might still see some bald birds out there too. Some birds like cardinals and blue jays are known to molt all the feathers in their head all at once. They don't all do that, and they don't always do that every year, but some of them will. So if you see a bald bird in your backyard this time of the year, don't get too upset. It's probably just fines, probably not mites. It usually is just that they are molting all their feathers. So give it a week or so, and they should look a little bit more normal. But it can be kind of striking, especially with the cardinals. They have such a dark head. It can be quite a contrast. But that is going on right now too. So here's some photos sent in by you guys of some activity going in your backyards. Here's a photo of a gray catbird sent in by Cleon. And not only does he have the adult catbird, but there's a little baby catbird. We don't often get photos of baby catbirds. So this is a really cool scene. And there is the adult feeding that baby. So really fun. And then another bird in that same family of the catbird is going to be the mockingbird, and that is another mimicking bird. So another bird that will be very loud and noisy and chatty in your backyard if you happen to have them around. But both of these are around for the summer. The gray catbirds will go south for the winter. Most of the mockingbirds will migrate further south as well, but some of them do stick it out, and some of the mockingbirds will stay over the winter. Mark sent in some photos of a Montezuma trip. He says a few sightings from a recent visit to Montezuma. And now here's a least bittern, really cool sighting here. Not the most common thing you'll see, and they can be very secretive. So it can be hard to find the bitterns. It's not like a great blue heron that'll just be out in the middle of the marsh. Usually the bitterns are kind of secretive and they're hanging back in the cattails a bit. So really cool photo there of a least bittern and a juvenile pied-billed grebe. You can see all that striping on its face. A cute little juvenile there. A great egret. If you're spending any time by a body of water this time of the year, you might see some great egret. They'll stop in this area as they migrate back down south. And along the river, you can find them. You can probably find them around Irondequoit Bay. And here's a picture of one at Montezuma. And then the birds of prey that you can typically find out there, the osprey and then the bald eagle. So really cool photos there. And then also a picture of a juvenile gannule. So a good selection of birds there sent in by Mark on his trip to Montezuma. Let's see. It looks like some of you guys are on. This comment from Ed got a little cut off, but it says, 2 weeks ago, a fledgling juvenile rose-breasted grosbeak did a window strike near our feeders. It was pretty stunned when I picked it up, but when I placed it in a nearby dogwood tree, it was stable enough to perch. I fed it some water from a dropper after a while, but at about 2 hours, it still hadn't moved, and I was considering a wildlife rehabber. Shortly after that, it flew up a few branches, and at around 3 hours, it flew away. I've never had a window strike bird take that long to recover, and then the rest got a little cut off. So if you're still on here, I'm curious what the rest of that says. But it sounds like the bird did recover, which is great. But yeah, the window strikes can make a big impact on birds as far as them getting jostled and then also deaths from window strikes. We do have some decals that are really good to help prevent that. You can put them on the outside of your window. Those are called window alerts. We're also getting a new company in very soon called Feather Friendly, and that company has been ranked very, very high and as far as keeping window strikes at bay. So the American Bird Conservancy and Audubon Society really rates this company super, super high. And they say these are the ones that work the best. And we've got those coming in very shortly. So we will let you know as soon as those come in. We've been trying to get them for a while, and now they are finally coming in. Lynn is on, says, good morning. From your garden tour, did you grow your fennel from seed or plant from a nursery? Really good question. Those I actually got from a nursery. I got them locally from Case's Garden Center, which is out in Irondequoit. If you happen to know where that is, it's out on, is it Bay Road? So it's or Bayview Road. It is out that way. It's on Bayview becomes Norton Street, so it might technically be Norton Street, but that is where I got them. I got them not this year. It might have been a few years ago. So I'm not sure if they have them in stock at the moment, but I did grow them from a plant from a nursery, but they were really small and now they are huge. So they really, really took off, and you could probably grow them from seed pretty easily. If you want any seeds from the ones I have, I'd be happy to give them to you, because they are huge and they're producing a lot of seeds and they do kind of spread throughout the garden. So if you do want any seeds, or maybe even any little sprouts that are coming up, I can check and see. Just let me know. Just send us a message here on Facebook, and I can make sure to give you some. Ed is back on, says sorry for the long post. But I just saw the juvenile at our feeders just a few days ago. Okay, perfect. So the story of the window strike has a happy ending in that that juvenile is out and about and it is visiting feeders. Fabulous. So love to hear that. So it looks like that's everybody's comments and questions. We are giving a talk live and in person on Saturday about the monarch butterfly. So if you're in the Rochester area, make sure to come and check that out. That is at Whitehaven Park. And after the talk, we'll probably go out and see if we can find any, assuming it's a nice day. And so look forward to that. And until next time, everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.